sharing the stage with all these fine, talented artists, and I knew that if I just got up here and told a story, that wouldn't be quite good enough, so I knew I had to spruce up my act a little bit. And so I figured a multimedia presentation would be the best way of accomplishing that. So, and I have the technology, so I put things together, and I'm real excited to show you this movie. Now, it's not going to start right away because it's a little bit shorter than the story that I've got to tell you. So rather than cutting my story short, I'll start the movie a little bit later. So it'll come around. Just be patient. And I should pre-warn you as well that it causes quite a racket. It's quite loud, and if you can't hear me, well, just sit back and relax and watch the movie, and don't know what else to tell you, but I think you should be able to hear me. And don't worry, the movie will start in due course, but first I want to tell you, where this all came from. It came from a feeling that I get when I go into the forest. And it's a feeling like I'm walking through my own memory, and now some of you might be looking at me a bit funny, but you've probably had a similar feeling before. It's kind of like the feeling you have when you're a kid. And you're lying in bed with a fever and your head feels really big and your body is super small, and I call it the big small feeling. Or it's kind of like, when your parents they tell you about a vacation, their favorite vacation, and they tell you so many times about it that you almost think you were there, but you weren't even born yet. That's kind of like this feeling I have when I go into the woods, I feel like I'm walking through my own memory, and maybe it's not even my memory, maybe it's just a, shared memory or something, I'm pushing back the moss and all the branches and climbing over rocks, and the deeper I go, the deeper I get in my memory, and I'm almost, sometimes I'm on the cusp of remembering something important. And now, perhaps it's the way that the forest looks, perhaps it's just the fact that all forests look pretty timeless, you don't know what year you're in, or decade, or hell, even century sometimes. Perhaps it's the way that, the silence, the stillness of the forest, it almost crushes your brain. And perhaps it's something about stepping on a stick and instinctively knowing that it's a sound others could hear. Anyway, this is the feeling I get in the forest, and I think now is an appropriate time to start the movie, so you're going to have to bear with. It's a bit of a temperamental machine, so I'm going to go back there for a second. Plug it in. I had power back then. Is it dark enough? That's all right. Well, don't worry, I'm gonna get to the bottom of where I got this projector. I mean, it starts with the feeling that I have that I was explaining, and I was walking through the woods, and I was getting, once you start to notice this feeling of walking in your own memory, you start to notice it a lot more. Trust me, you can try it yourselves. And so I was walking through the forest, and I was getting real deep, and I was getting pretty lost, I think, at that point, but I was getting real close to remembering something important, and I just kept walking, and I was stumbling over rocks and trees and moss and all sorts of things, and I was getting really close to remembering that thing. It was on the tip of my tongue, and I saw in my vision, I started to see myself without shoes on, and I was running after a moose, and I was hacking its brains out. It was kind of sinister, it was kind of sick, but that's the vision that I got anyway, and I felt real overwhelmed by it, so I figured I'd better sit down, better yet lie down, kind of like when you're at the grocery store and you feel overwhelmed by all the options, you just gotta lie down. That's what I did. I laid down there in the woods, and I was at such an angle that I could see I could see a rock there, and a really rocky overhang, and underneath this rock, at the angle that I was at, I could see a black metal container, and when I went over to it, and that was that very projector there that you see in front of you. It was just in the woods, and well, I was pretty excited to find this thing, mostly because, well, being in the state I had no idea what year or century it was, so I was pretty excited to find out that I was in the 1960s. You know, it's a pretty good decade to find yourself in, and I was pretty excited, so I was walking back, and I didn't really realize until I got back into civilization, seeing people on cell phones and driving smart cars, that I was actually still in the 2000s. I had just found a piece of old junk in the woods. But I really wanted to see what it could do, you know, but it didn't come with a film or anything. So I figured I'd go and get a Super 8, you know. So let me tell you, it's not that easy. Went down to the local video store and asked them if they had any Super 8s for rent, and the snot-nosed kids didn't even know what Super 8 was and told me to kick rocks, so got out of there. But I wasn't deterred, you know, I kept going. I mean, I went down to the microfilm department at the local library. I called the Ministry of Historical Artifacts. I mean, I went so far as to go through the phone book and pick out people with old sounding names like Walter and Esther and give them a call and see if they had any Super 8s lying around. They told me to kick rocks too, but so several years this thing was collecting dust in the house. Still couldn't find any films. One day I was sick. I had that big small feeling, you know. I had that big head, small body feeling, and I was lying around. My friend came over and he was helping me clean my place, and he noticed the projector, and he's a lot more, you know, technologically savvy than I am, which isn't saying much, but anyway, he told me about this thing called eBay, and said that might be a good way to find one of these films, which went on about 5 minutes. I found a couple in Kentucky, like Lisa said, and they were cleaning out their parents' basement or something like that, and they had all these old things. They had a Super 8 film and of a vacation or something like that, and they had all these 8-tracks and betas and VHSs and DVDs and cassettes and all that, and they were getting rid of them. And well, I told them I was interested in the Super 8 and offered to buy it, and they said I could. There's just one catch. I had to take the whole box of junk that came with it, all the beta and 8-tracks and VHSs and all that nonsense, but it was only $20, so I said that's fine, so I could afford that. And then it comes to filling out the forms, you know, where you put your shipping address and all that stuff, and I got hit with some pretty bad news. It's going to cost $75 just to mail this box of junk to Canada, and I could afford $20, but not $20 plus $75 shipping, but I figured something out. I figured out a loophole, and that's if you send it to the United States, it's free shipping. Amazing how that country works. So, you know, I didn't know, I don't have any friends in the United States, but the next best thing is I called up the gas station over the border and I said, I'm sending you a parcel of old tapes, and would you please give me a call when it comes in? And well, they said they objected to that, you know, but I told them the story about how I was walking in the woods and walking through my own memory and having to lie down, seeing the moose and hacking its brains out, and they agreed, and I said all I had to do was buy some gasoline and some cigarettes and we'd have a deal, and I agreed. So they called me and I went down over the border, and the U.S. guy waved me in all nice and friendly, and went in the gas station there and bought, you know, some gas and a block of cheese, because it's pretty cheap down there, and got good cheese, and bought 2 packs of cigarettes like we agreed. And then of course I picked up the parcel of the box of tapes, and I was feeling pretty pleased with myself. You know, I got back in the car and drove back to the border, and Canadians, this Canadian border guards, and well, for some reason they always give you a harder time than the Americans. I never really did understand that, but so I rolled up there, and the guy, he wants to know how long I've been down there for and what I'm bringing back. And I always find it's better to be honest in these kinds of situations. So I told the truth. I said 10 minutes, and I'm bringing back some gasoline and some cheese, 2 packs of cigarettes, and a box of old tapes. And well, that didn't seem to really please him very much. I was pretty worried that he was going to take these tapes. I was pretty nervous too. So I started telling him a little story, walking into the woods and walking through my memory, and about how I was seeing the moose and hacking its brains out, lying down, and he said, "Kid, you know about Section 12, Article 13 of the 5th Force Amendment, 49th Parallel Free Trade Agreement." He went on like this for 45 minutes. I had no idea what the hell he was talking about, but apparently, if you're in the States for less than 48 hours, you're only allowed 1 pack of cigarettes, because they think you're going to make a profit off the other one, which I was planning to do, but I gave him the pack, and that was fine with me, because I was only concerned about the tapes, and I got away with it. I was pretty pleased with my fast thinking there. So I get home, and well, I open up this box of junk, and I'm taking out all sorts of interesting looking things, but they're Beta and 8 tracks and VHSs and cassettes, DVDs, and well, I put them aside because I wasn't interested in those. I was more interested in this one blue silver disc container thing. Kind of looked like the disc that the old James Bond's always trying to get off the hands of Dr. No and Goldfinger, that disc that somehow they feed into this machine that's going to blow up the world. Well, anyway, this one blue silver disc, and on it, in masking tape, with old person handwriting. You know what it looks like, because you probably got some cards lying around your house. Your grandma and grandpa, they have that really nice, fine handwriting. "Dear Fletcher, I hope you're well. We miss you. Thinking of you often." And then they underline whatever the card says a couple of times, the stock message, and then the hugs. But anyway, I'm getting off topic. On the cover of the silver metal container disc that looks like James Bond had it, is written with this old-fashioned handwriting, 2 words, and coming around to them. There's a point in the movie that coincides with nicely. But those 2 words, you can probably guess them by now, after what I was seeing in the woods. Those 2 words were, wait for it, moose hunt. And you can see in a second why I was so shocked when I put on the movie to see what was going on, which was this guy hacking a moose's brains out on the Super 8 that I had got from who knows where in Kentucky. And I knew right then and there that my belief in the fact that memories are created in the forest was correct. You just gotta go deep.
Oh, of course we are.